So this is the part 2 of chapter 4 class 7 NCERT history. Now in the earlier video we have covered up to the campaigns of Akbar. Now in this video we will learn about the campaigns of Jahangir. His period was from 1605 to 27, so almost 22 years. Okay. Now military campaigns started by Akbar continued. The Sisodia ruler of Mewar, Amar Singh, was accepted in the Mughal service. Less successful campaigns against the Sikhs, Ahoms, and Ahmednagar followed. That means these campaigns were not so successful. Now, notice here the Ahoms, they were the ethnic group who reached the Brahmaputra Valley of Assam in 1228, and the local indigenous people they also joined them over the course of time. Now, Prince Khurram, who was the future Emperor Shah Jahan, he rebelled in the last years of his reign. Now, next emperor was Shah Jahan. His period was from 1627 to 1658. Now, Mughal campaigns continued in the Deccan under the Shah Jahan. Afghan noble Khan Jahan Lodi rebelled and was defeated. Campaigns were launched against Ahmednagar. Notice that the Ahmednagar was not conquered yet, but it was fought over for victory since the time of Akbar. Now, the Bundels were defeated. Okay, in the northwest, the campaign to seize the Balkh from Uzbeks was unsuccessful and Kandahar was lost. Notice that Kandahar was brought under control by Akbar. Now it was lost again to the Safavids in the Shah Jahan reign. In 1632, Ahmednagar was finally annexed and the Bijapur forces sued for peace. So this is an important development. When was the Ahmednagar finally brought under control of Mughal Empire? In the year 1632 by Shah Jahan. In 1657, there was conflict over succession amongst the Shah Jahan's sons. So, if you notice in all these Mughal emperors' periods, their sons usually they used to fight among themselves for the control of property. So, this led to the difficulty in ruling of the emperor. So, Aurangzeb was victorious. Okay, he was the son of Shah Jahan, and his three brothers, including Dara, were killed. Shah Jahan was imprisoned for the rest of his life in Agra. Next emperor comes Aurangzeb. Okay, his period was from 1658 to 1707. In the northeast, Ahoms were defeated in 1663. Now recall that earlier we have read in the Jahangir period, Ahoms. Okay, they were these campaigns were not successful in the period of Jahangir against the Ahoms, and now in this Aurangzeb era, okay, Ahoms were defeated in the year 1663. They were the northeast tribes, but rebelled again in the 1680s. So Ahoms, after getting defeated in 1663, they rebelled again in 1680s. So campaigns in the northwest against Yusufzai, these were the tribes from the Pakistan, and the Sikhs were temporarily successful. Mughal intervention in the succession and internal politics of Rathore Rajputs of Mawar led to their rebellion. Okay, so Rathore Rajputs they rebelled against the Mughal intervention. Campaigns against Maratha chieftains Shivaji were initially successful. So, in the Aurangzeb period, he also fought against the Marathas. But Aurangzeb insulted Shivaji, who escaped from Agra, declared himself an independent king, and resumed his campaigns against the Mughals. Prince Akbar, he was the son of the Aurangzeb. Do not confuse it with the Akbar, that the Mughal emperor. He rebelled against Aurangzeb and received support from the Marathas and the Deccan Sultanate. He finally fled to Safavid, Iran. Now, after Akbar's rebellion, Aurangzeb sent armies against the Deccan Sultanates. Bijapur was annexed in 1685 and Golconda in 1687. So, from the time of Akbar, these Deccan Sultanates they were fought for control. But now, finally, Ahmednagar, in the previous slide we have read, Ahmednagar was brought under control by Shah Jahan, and now Bijapur and Golconda they were brought under control by Aurangzeb. From 1698, Aurangzeb personally managed campaigns in the Deccan against the Marathas who started guerrilla warfare. Okay, Aurangzeb also had to face the rebellion in North India of the Sikhs, Jats, and Satnamis, in the northeast of the Ahoms, and in the Deccan of the Marathas. His death was followed by a succession conflict among his sons. Now, friends, we have covered so far all the Mughal campaigns and battles. Okay, so this was just for the information period. Now we will read about the important functioning of the or policies of the Mughal Empire. Okay, how they functioned. So Mughal traditions of succession. Okay, they did not believe in the rule of primogeniture. It means the eldest son he inherits his father's property. Instead, they followed the Mughal and Timurid custom of co-parcenary inheritance or division of the inheritance amongst all the sons. We have read this in the Humayun's period. Okay, He divided the property of Babur equally amongst his brothers. Who do you think which is a fairer division of inheritance, primogeniture or co-parcenary? So I think co-parcenary is the fairer because it is based on the principle of equality. Now, how were the Mughal relations with other rulers, friends? Mughal rulers, they campaigned constantly against the rulers who refused to accept their authority. But as the Mughals they became powerful, many other rulers also joined them voluntarily. The Rajputs are a good example of this. Many of them also married their daughters and received high positions. After defeating, Mughals treated their opponents honorably. Now, this is an important point. When after defeating their opponents, Mughals they used to treat their opponents honorably. Okay, so this careful balance between defeating but not humiliating their opponents, it enabled the Mughals to extend their influence over many kings and chieftains. So recall now this incident in the Aurangzeb period. He insulted the Shivaji. What was the consequence of this? Shivaji escaped from Agra and he declared himself independent king and resumed his campaigns against the Mughals. So he broke the Mughal tradition of honoring his opponent. Okay, so this was the consequence.